So for the first time ever, Haney's actually put the show together. I mean, I'm excited for this.
Sounds a little bit frightening. I'm sure there might be some Young Bucks slander going on here, or something to that effect. I hope we're not sacrificing somebody or something. That would be kind of a little probably against the terms of service of YouTube, I would imagine. But I'm excited.
Yeah, Haney, I've got a bit of a question. How can the Young Bucks end up in the art of wrestling?
They can't. You know, under the things not to do. Things not to do as wrestlers.
Things not to do as wrestlers. Okay, that's fitting. That's fitting.
I went into a coffin fit there. I do apologize.
It's all good, bro.
I was trying to hold back and not talk about. I was trying not to talk about the reprobates.
Yeah, so anyway, we're talking about the art of wrestling in a first of a two-part show. Haney's going to be leading the main event, so we've got enough to talk about. As always, roll the intro. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. Welcome, of course, to another edition of the Magic of Wrestling podcast. I'm, of course, Liam Wakeland.
And I'm the American half of the equation. I'm the one guy here in this triangular formation that doesn't have a proper British accent. I'm the American of the bunch. I'm Mr. Isaacs. Hello, everybody.
Have you actually ever done a British impression?
Do I have like a British impression?
Yes.
Oh, yes, I have a British impression, and I'm going to get me some tea and crumpets.
We don't even sound like that.
Over there. You still do crumpets? Is that still a thing?
Yeah.
Okay, so tea and crumpets. Although, I know you're not a tea man, Liam, because we talked about that once. Alex, are you a tea guy?
Yeah, I like tea. I love tea.
So there we go. Tea and crumpets.
Cup of cha. Good cup of cha.
Ah, chai tea. Nice. I'm a fan of Earl Grey tea. That's what I like personally.
Yeah. How do you make your tea? Do you have a kettle? Now I know that's a lot of Americans don't know what a kettle is.
I mean I have a teapot, and sometimes I make it in a coffee maker as well.
Yeah. So you don't have a tea kettle. I seen Liam will laugh at this. I seen a video of an American but was demonstrating how to make a tea in an air fryer, and it only took 18 minutes.
That sounds like a very American thing to do, make tea in an air fryer. I mean, what the fuck?
I don't even know what to say to that. I mean, is that what most Americans are like? Just do stupid shit?
Yeah, basically. Yeah. I mean, if you go through like YouTube or whatever, and you just find like people doing stupid shit, about 80% of the time it's going to be an American. So, I mean, that's just how it is. Freedom comes with consequences, guys. It just does.
Fair enough. So, Mr. Isaacs, usually weekly catch up. How's your week been, man?
Oh, it was very chaotic, but very good. I had the kids this week. I did jiu-jitsu one night this week. It's just the rigmarole of the week is just always so like it's good, it's heartwarming, but it's also very tiresome. So then like on weekends, whenever like the kids are gone, like I'm rolling out of bed at almost noon, and then I got this podcast in an hour. So yeah, that's where we're at.
Dedication, let's be honest.
And I'm watching the Kentucky basketball game on my big screen here, and currently Alabama is beating Kentucky, unfortunately. But it's in the second half now, and hoping for a rally comeback by the Kentucky Wildcats.
Is that like a big rivalry?
I wouldn't say it's a huge rivalry. I mean, they're in the same conference, so they play each other every year. But Alabama is ranked 4th in the nation, and Kentucky is ranked 8th in the nation. So, I mean, that by virtue of their rank, that makes it kind of a big deal. Yeah.
Okay.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Annie, of course, mate. How's your week been?
It has been the usual malarkey of work and no play, unfortunately.
Okay. So nothing exciting, just usual stuff.
Just this time of year is just basically work. Projects kicking off. But was it? But was it basically projects just kicking off and stuff like that? You know, so it's sort of really. It's just January, isn't it? So
Yeah, we call it the January
all good.
blues. I don't know if that's an American thing as well.
I don't know that I've heard that phrase before, but it definitely exists for sure. I mean, January fucking sucks. Let's just be honest. Like, this is the worst month of the year. Like, if we could kick a month off the island, it would be January. Let's be honest here. We would all agree with that, right?
100%.
Yeah. We
Annie, what
got
about you?
Tiffany Trim in the house. What is
Definitely.
up? Thank you for joining us.
Absolutely, absolutely. So one of my mates sent me a question yesterday, and I thought I'm going to throw it on the podcast just to have some fun. He said, in your guys' opinion, what is the greatest WrestleMania of all time, show-wise?
17.
Remember which one's 17 now?
See,
'Cause my mind's gone.
It's the one with Rock and Austin with the Austin heel turn at the end, which was like the only real bad part of the show.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
Go
that's
on. You were
what
saying?
everybody says 17, but that everybody says 17, but that's what really puts me off it is that whole end part. It was just a cluster.
It didn't
It
end
made
well
no
for
sense.
sure. Yeah.
They obviously arsed the whole thing up. You know, very unprofessional of Stone Cold to fuck it up like that. You know.
Well, what is yours, Haney? What do you think's the best Mania?
That's a hard one. Yeah, I probably would say 17 is probably the best Mania that was in terms of like the whole show,
Yeah.
you know. But if you were to ask me what's the greatest WrestleMania moment, I would probably say Rock Hogan, just because of everything was just that was the perfect pro wrestling story.
Yeah.
The match didn't need to be over the top or anything. It was just what wrestling is and should be, you know. But
That was at
yeah,
18,
17
right?
probably is the best.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the next one. Yeah.
Yeah, it was at 18. Yeah, I mean, I agree with you on that. I think that probably is the biggest moment I can think of too. The crowd, I think, was hottest for that of like anything else that I can recall in Mania history.
Yeah.
So we're all actually in
that,
agreement.
just the whole match.
Sorry, Haney, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but yeah, EA did obviously say 17 as well, but it was obviously torn between 18 as well. So it's kind of we're all in agreement, really. I think everyone's saying it does 17.
17 is the answer, my man.
Haney, we're going to say something.
It's sort of it's they two are sort of like the exclamation mark on that era, the end of it as well. 17, 18 is really the sort of end of that sort of decade of wrestling dominance, you know.
Yeah.
It's just something special.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to signify the capstone, if you will, the conclusion of like the Monday Night Wars Attitude Era. I mean, literally, WrestleMania 17 was it. That was literally the week of the final WCW Nitro. So, I mean, that was the end of, you know, if you guys remember, well, I don't know if Liam would remember. He might be too young, but Haney, you might remember. That was literally the final Nitro week. The final Nitro happened on Monday, and then that Sunday was WrestleMania 17. So, I mean, it was like kind of like a brand new chapter for wrestling at that point.
And between that, and in between that week, everybody goes on about how Vince screwed up the WCW invasion. In between that week, Sanders and Stasiak fucked up the whole thing because they went out and told people what was happening, and you know that they were going to be there and they were going to do this and they were going to do that, and the whole thing got cancelled. You know, so that's what probably put the whole thing at an end before it even started. It's like Vince is probably like, oh god, these guys
Sanders was so fucking good. Like his personality and him on the mic, he was so good. I don't understand why
Yeah.
that guy just vanished and never, like, was literally never seen again. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah. You know, it is odd, but he did what he did. You know, it was he probably killed his whole career in that moment because he was definitely. Vince is not going to give him a second. Vince would give people a second chance, but you need to have done something for Vince beforehand to get that second chance. You know,
Yeah.
he wasn't even in the door yet, and he was talking about it on a radio show, what they were going to do, and blah blah blah. You know, as if it was just back then. Still, it was they still didn't sort of.
Very
What was
stupid thing
it?
to do. Yeah.
Very very seldomly spoke at a tongue. Yeah.
100%, 100%. You guys, I mean, well, let's talk about Penta obviously showing up on Raw. We kind of knew it was coming, but the weird thing is WWE put Penta's stuff on the WWE shop before he debuted, so it was kind of like a screw up.
I don't think it was a screw up. I think it was intentional, but it was very interesting that they chose to do that, though. But I guess it's just one of those things where, Triple H opened up the Netflix era by using terms like shoot and work and heel and face. I guess at this point, they're just going to start showing their hand and just be like, look, we know you guys know, but we're not going to sit here and try to bullshit you. We're just going to go with it. So I think this is just how we're going to see business operated by them from moving on. I just think this is how they're going to handle things like this.
Yeah, he's like, these guys are just a bunch of assholes. You have ruined the whole thing. You know?
Now, don't you Brits say arseholes sometimes?
Yeah. Yes, we do.
Okay, we got to use arsehole in this context, right?
Okay. But the funny thing is, a lot of people saying that his promo is shot after the match is like the best thing he's ever done, even like in AEW and stuff like that. I'm like, it's a bit strong. I mean, I don't know what you thought, Annie.
Yeah, you know my thoughts on that sort of style of wrestling. You're going to get people. You're going to get people sort of shouting about it. What was it? I don't recall him ever being given the mic in AEW to sort of compare it against. So, yeah, that's an odd one.
Mr. Isaacs.
Well, he had that Abraham guy that always did all the talking for him in AEW, and one thing I always heard was that him and his brother Ray Phoenix legitimately don't. I mean, they don't speak English. like they just know a little bit of conversational English, and so they had that. What was that guy Abraham Cabro something or other that always did all the promo work for them in AEW. So it was interesting to see Penta come out on his own. Sans any type of manager or spokesperson. And I mean, the promo was a little rough. It did help the fact that they were in California. They were in were they in San Diego or San Jose? One or the other. But they have a lot of Latinos, Spanish-speaking Latinos in the crowd. So when he spoke in Spanish, he got a big pop because everybody there knew what he said. Yeah. None of us at home knew what the fuck he said, but everybody in the crowd knew what he said. So I thought it was a good way to debut him. It was a good spot to debut him. Here, like I said, in a Latino friendly community. It's better they did it there instead of like Tuscaloosa, Alabama, or somewhere like that. That might have been a little rougher for him. Someplace in California, someplace in Southern Texas would be ideal. And I thought it was a good debut. I thought it was a good match. It was a little clunky in a couple parts, but ultimately, him and Gable, I think, put on a pretty damn good match with each other.
Yeah.
It felt bigger than anything he'd ever done in AEW.
Well, I would give that to Gable for doing that because he kept it on the ground.
Yeah.
And he stopped him from doing all his, like, they told the story about stopping him doing all the flippy shit that he does, which I absolutely hate. So it's one of the things. But it's. I think the WWE ropes are dangerous because when he did hit his moves, the spring on them was enormous. I think. What was it? Obviously, the ropes aren't normally that tight, so
yeah. Like
But
they
it'll be
say,
interesting to see with things going forward.
I've always heard people say the WWE has the tightest ropes. Like I've always heard that.
Yep.
Yeah, I've heard that as well. So
it's a weird, it's a sort of weird sort of. But it was yeah. You wonder if you just hit it wrong, you know, are you going to get injured?
yeah,
I'm sure. Hopefully not.
No, not at all. So you've probably seen some news going at the bottom of your screen. I mean, Mr. Isaacs, I'll start with you on this. What is the deal with Ricky Starks? He's not being used. He's not being utilized, and it's kind of frustrating for us as fans because I'm a massive fan of his. Do you know what I mean? It just seems to be not working.
He's just one of those guys that, like Ray Phoenix. He's just going to sit on the sidelines for a while until his contract's up. Then he's going to go to WWE. I mean, that's just what's going to happen. Everybody used to get upset when WWE would release somebody. AEW won't release anybody. They just hold everybody until their contract is done, and then they're allowed to go work somewhere else. I think that's what's going to happen here with Starks, and I think the bloom is off the rose here. Like people know that AEW's backstage environment is not all kumbaya like they thought it was going to be 5 years ago. And we're going to start seeing this happen more often. Ricky Starks is just one of those examples.
I mean, I've said it for a number of years, looking at what they were doing with sort of Ricky. And basically, Tony Khan's been as petty as fuck in that situation because it all stems back to Cody and Ricky Stark's been seen at what was it, WrestleMania? What was it when he debuted? He was his runner. Was it? And ever since that point, what was it? Ricky's been featured less and less.
He's wrestling on the Indies every weekend, apparently.
Yeah,
along with Malachi Black.
I mean, Malachi Black. I mean, what was it? I don't get it at all. What was it? But hey, what was it called? I'm aligned with some AEW fans now because all of a sudden they think he's this and that because he's meant to be gone, and it's like, hey, what was it? It's like, get a grip, get a grip.
Yeah, with Malachi though, we've been here before. I mean, how many times have we said that? Oh, by the way, he's leaving and stuff like that. And then he's come out and said, "Oh no, I'm still at AEW."
Yeah, I mean, when there's smoke, there's fire. Typically, and it just seems like this is kind of an ongoing thing with him for the past year or so. It's like I just think he's on his last leg in AEW. I think he's determined, and I think he's destined to go back to WWE to work with his wife. And I think that's probably going to be better for him.
Yeah, I think that's probably fair and stuff like that. But
what though? Yeah.
Go ahead.
I'm just saying to do what though?
To do what?
Was it,
I don't know. I mean, it would be cool if they gave him back his entrance that he had. That music was dope. Like I loved his entrance theme in WWE. I don't know what they'd have him do.
Yeah,
I have no idea. Probably more than AEW would do with him, I'm sure.
I don't know. I'm just thinking now.
It's an odd one.
Go ahead, Innie.
What are you thinking about?
Sorry, I was saying that. Yeah, I think.
Saying what were you thinking?
I'm just trying to think now. I mean, if he goes back, I mean, is he just going to be stuck in the mid card anyway?
I mean, I don't think he's going to be a main eventer anywhere. To be quite frank, I mean, I think he should be, but I don't think anybody's going to use him as a main eventer. I think he's going to be a mid-card guy.
It's too late. Yeah, it's too late. He's not like an AJ Styles. I mean, he's round about the same age AJ Styles was when he came into the WWE. He's not got that stature. In wrestling.
No.
So yeah, I don't think it's going to happen for him.
I agree.
Remains to be seen.
I think what was it? Yeah. It'll be interesting to see what happens. But what was it called? I hope WWE don't just sign somebody for the sake of signing them because they're free. maybe better off going to TNA or something like that and getting a wee run there and getting a world championship, you know. But yeah, who knows?
I can see that too.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, one final thing before we obviously head into the main event is it was announced obviously this week that WWE and TNA are officially still in a partnership for a good few years. So who knows? I mean, that could be like a catalyst for him to go to WWE. What you reckon?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is going to be really good for TNA. This might be one of the only things that keeps them afloat. If I'm just being honest, because this is going to kind of put them to the forefront, and people are going to be paying attention. I do think this is mostly going to be just NXT commingling, kind of like how in the early days of Black and Gold NXT, they would send like the Street Profits were like the Evolve Tag Team Champions long before they even appeared on NXT television as NXT wrestlers.
Yeah.
So I think it's going to be kind of like that. I think they're just going to take some talent that they aren't really ready to present on their primetime NXT show and get them a little experience in the TNA world and work with some of the veterans over there. And, you know, it's just a mutually beneficial partnership that I think both companies are going to benefit from.
Yeah. Haney?
Yeah, hopefully we can get some of the TNA guys and some of the TNA branding into the WWE game as well. That would be really cool. You know?
It would be.
You mean like,
but it was,
you mean like a DLC?
Yeah, like a DLC. You know, I'm sure. I'm sure. What was it? You could bring in a few. I mean, they've already got some of the guys, and they've already got some of the sort of guys. What was it? In WWE on Legends deals like Nash and things like that. You know, so you could do some really cool stuff with that. You know,
you could do the TNA
put in
package,
their
and you could have
attires.
you could have Nash. You could have some guys like that. A few legends. You could
Hulk coming out as Elvis.
Yeah.
Remember the whole Elvis outfit?
You could even throw in Dolph Ziggler. I don't know. Who's like a top guy in TNA right now. You could bring him in, call him Dolph Ziggler, and have him be part of the DLC package.
Yeah, that would be good. I think it's a good. I think it's a good opportunity for what was it, TNA? And I think Jordan Grace tweeted Ultimate X at WrestleMania. It's going to happen.
I don't know about that, but we'll see.
I don't hate it, but
can you imagine that an Ultimate X match at WrestleMania? All the WWE fans would be like, "What the fuck is this?"
I think I don't think WWE fans are. I think WWE fans are more close to what TNA did in the past, as opposed to what the CAEW is.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah.
TNA was more that sort of WCW product. You know.
It was.
I mean, I know there's a lot. I know there's a lot of way. They didn't try to sort of like, oh well, they had the sided ring. Can you imagine that in a video game?
That'd be weird.
Yeah, the TNA. By the way, the TNA, the TNA game actually still holds up. If you look at the graphics, the gameplay was shit, but graphically it was way ahead of its time. You know?
Yeah. Do you know? Thinking about it now, the graphics were pretty decent.
Yeah.
And hey, guys, we got suicide as a result of the TNA game.
Yes, we did.
We made sure that Christopher Daniels and TJ Perkins and whoever else wrestled under the mask had job security.
Beetlejuice, did Beetlejuice not wrestle as him as well?
I'm joking. I don't know. You're slap nuts. I always think when I hear about Beetlejuice, I always think about that part in TNA or not in WCW where he's like walking backstage because Vince Russo had a hard on for anything like Howard Stern or anything like that. He wanted to be Howard Stern, so he had Beetlejuice in there, and he was walking backstage, and Jarrett comes across and goes, Beetlejuice goes, "Hey, slap nuts!" And Jarrett's like, "What'd you call me?" He goes, "Slap nuts," and then he just bangs the guitar over his fucking head and walks away.
Oh
yeah,
the good old days.
Good times.
Very good times. Right then, gentlemen, shall we get ready for the main event?
Let's do it.
Here we go.
The main.
The main event.
So, before we obviously do our main event, we'll have a nice little mid-session interval before Haney starts rambling on for the next hour.
Ah,
Just
An
saying.
hour? It's about 4 hours of Eva Marie.
Oh, Jesus. So, yeah, this is obviously the mid-session interval where we promote, obviously, the upcoming UK shows. So, here's a 90-second clip, and I'll explain all about it.
Oh, it isn't time for going slow. Oh, the greatest flow to know is what's within. Is what's within. Is what's within. Oh, the fouler wind hath blown now, and onwards round all that we know. Great monsters hide inside halos, with jackals disguised down below. Oh, don't it mean to see them when shadows have faded? And the lions bending those pastures predicted in scrolls. Hey, gauntlet, wandering family glory.
So, as you can see, some incredible shows coming up. So, if fans are going to go check them out, in the description of this video, you will see a tab called Upcoming Shows. Go to each of their websites, go check them out. And as we always say, go and support British wrestling or any wrestling. Is that better?
yeah, that works for me.
Okie dokie. Right then. So, The Art of Wrestling Part 1. Hey, Nate, I'm going to hand this over to you because you obviously put this show together, mate, and we're just going to follow your lead.
Woohoo! Yeah, so today we're going to talk about the art of wrestling, and as you know, I'm a big fan of the traditional pro wrestling match that with the whole thing of everything being done for a purpose and everything making sense and yada yada yada. You know, you've heard me rattle on about it before. So the first thing we're going to talk about, and I think it's probably the most important part of wrestling once you've learned how to do all your moves and and understand, is to learn the psychology of wrestling. So that's basically being able to sort of craft the match. Craft a match and be able to sort of get the whole emotion involved in the matchup. You know, learn how to read the room. Understand your opponent, understand the people round about you, understand the fans in the crowd, understand the fans if it's on television. You know, psychology, huge big part of wrestling. So what are your thoughts?
Mr. Isaacs, I'll let you kick that one off.
Yeah, I mean, and I think I said this on the very first podcast I ever did with Liam when he asked me what my thoughts were on just wrestling in general as a form of entertainment. And wrestling is a medium, it's an art form that tells a story that is old as time itself, in the sense of that whether you're watching a Shakespearean play, whether you're reading a book like the Bible, like God versus Satan, you know, you've got heel versus babyface, you've got evil versus good. I mean, this is a story literally as old as time itself. And this is just another mechanism by way which we can tell this story. And that's what pro wrestling is. The psychology of pro wrestling is telling a story of good versus evil through a system of choreographed fight sequences, signifying the good versus the evil. In this case, the babyface wrestler versus a heel wrestler, and it does so through a physical struggle, through fighting. You've got the good fighting the evil. Who's going to overcome who? We're going to see some dramatic turns. The evil's going to get one up on the good. The good's going to make a comeback towards the end of the match. The fans are going to cheer because that's their cue to cheer. And then the good guy's going to be triumphant, standing tall at the very end of the squabble. I mean, that's just what psychology of wrestling is. It's the psychology of basic good versus evil.
Yep. I mean, for me, when I think obviously psychology, I'm thinking building obviously the character as well. You mean you've got to build the character which a fan's got to get involved in and stuff like that. It's not just like going into a ring as a normal person and like you said there, good versus evil. They've got to build that character, like you said. They've got to build it so, like you said, fans are going to believe it, going to be invested in it. Because if not, I mean, as we know, sometimes fans will just tune out. It's all about like balance, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Annie, I think there's a big delay
No,
with your
definitely.
I think there's a big delay with your thing.
Yeah, sorry. I think there was. No, yeah, no. I mean, definitely. I mean, to me, that's the core part of wrestling, and for me is what was it? Something that sort of what was it? Not really for a lot of the guys that came up from the indie scene don't have any sort of wrestling psychology. They're all about the sort of moves as opposed to getting doing all the cool stuff. There's no psychology to what they do. They just do it, because it's spectacular, What was it? And it really is important to have that psychology in a match because not just the match, but for the matches that follow it on, because these big spectacular moves might look cool, but it takes the crowd right out of the match, because then stupid stuff starts to happen, with if they're not doing things in a logical way, in my view, anyway. The way I look at something, right, what was it in wrestling? As soon as that psychology breaks down in a match, I'm disinterested in it, because there's nothing in it for me other than to get the result of the match, So, but was it? I always sort of think that that's a big part of what I'm looking for when I'm looking at wrestling.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to add some of what you said there, Haney, do you think then, Mr. Isaacs, I'll start with you on this, do you think the indie scene is more about like trial and error before they get to like the big league in a way?
Yeah, basically. I mean, you're working with a small niche audience that they're going to be more concerned with, a lot of them are going to be more concerned with the moves you're doing as opposed to the story you're telling. Because in independent wrestling, you're not really telling a long form story. It's just kind of, a lot of times it's just two guys or two women randomly thrown together. Hey, let's put on a match.
Yeah.
So I mean, there's not like a big story to tell in the independents. So, it's kind of a way to kind of learn some crowd work, and practice some moves and try certain things to see if it gets over. So that whenever you do get to the big leagues, maybe you could try some of that on television and see if it goes over there. But I mean, independent wrestling is kind of, it's kind of like your craft brewery, right? It's like the beer snobs will go there and drink it, but the mainstream audience is just comfortable going to the grocery store and getting their Bud Light, right? That's kind of what it's like here. Indie wrestling is your craft beer, and but most people would just prefer WWE and drink their Bud Light and be happy.
Yeah, because it doesn't need to be overcomplicated. I do think the WWE in the past is as much as people say, oh, they don't look after, they've underutilized this wrestler, or they've not used this wrestler properly, which I don't believe, because at the end of the day, they're an investment and they're spending money on them, So the opportunity, it comes both ways, and if you're not there and grabbing that that proverbial brass ring that they go on about. But was it they're not going to give you that chance, you know? What was it? People forget that once you sort of hit the big television shows, your job is not just to wrestle; it's to get people invested and invested in you, and invested in buying your T-shirt. We talked about Penta, you know, putting a T-shirt up, you know. That was it called. That was very smart. I mean, I would like to see the number of what was it, people that ordered that T-shirt. What was it during that match? You know, they're probably on their phones, you know, going, right, I'm going to order this, you know. Apparently it's the number one seller in the WWE just now. What was it? And that's hard to do because you've got to knock off some of the big guys. You've got to knock off Cody, CM Punk, Roman Reigns, you know, Rock. Austin's always up there, even though he's not like on the roster.
Yeah.
You know, so you've got Rhea Ripley, you know, let's mention some of the women as well. They're all big sellers, you know. You don't just come in and sell T-shirts, you know. It's all about presenting and presentation. But was I hark back to last year when it was all in. What was it when Ricochet debuted? Ricochet debuted at a point where between the sort of gauntlet match and the two pre-shows, we'd already seen like 500 wrestlers, you know. And that's no exaggeration. It was ridiculous.
Yeah.
Was it called? And then there was no consequence to the match. He lost, you know. So there was no story there for him to jump onto, and it took a wee while for it to sort of turn around. You know, whereas as much as I'm not a fan of like the Penta style, they presented him and they got people intrigued and interested. And I was say like, people were like, oh, somebody made a joke like, oh, they must have like messed up posting posting the T-shirt and that too soon. They told everybody the week before on Raw that it was Penta. They put his name on the screen, and then in the press conference, Triple H says, "Well, Chad Gable's facing a great luchador, but you all already know who he is, so let's not pretend that you know." So it is this sort of thing about psychology. It's really important in this, I think.
100%.
Yeah,
No.
absolutely agree.
So the next point that really ties in with the psychology, but it's also important because, again, what was it? I put a big part on getting invested in wrestlers as a storytelling and what they're doing. You know, so that's typically done through, as we know, like a promo or what was it, or a vignette on the lead up. I mean, one thing I miss from the old days is the build up vignettes. You know, like Chris Jericho's coming soon or Taz's. You know, that was they were all really cool, sort of like debuting vignettes before they even debuted. It was really cool. You know, so that's really about what was it, reminding everybody that, and we've sort of talked about it, that wrestling is really that physical theatre. You know, was it the ring is a way of conveying all these what was it, stories through actions. So what was it, whether it be with the match or the segments in between the matches, or or on the build up to the matches, or basically they're telling a story to get where they need to go, so that things flow and things have purpose. And I think that's something that's although we've got a bit of it, what was it in the last year back in the WWE, I think that's something that's sort of drastically sort of missing in wrestling, is that traditional sort of storytelling in wrestling, building that sort of long story arc. Everybody wants things now, give me it now, or so they do a big angle and they're building up to something, and within 6 weeks, this is boring, they've not done it yet. There's something to be said about doing that long arc of telling a story, and doing it right. Now, there's sometimes it's done wrong, like last year with
the Devil.
the Devil,
MJF and the Devil.
MJF and the Devil. That was, and sort of we talked about it on the show after WrestleMania last year. It sort of died. That was the end. The Cody thing put a full stop on a big sort of storyline, because there was nobody else. The Rock disappeared. What was it? Roman disappeared, and we were waiting for them to come back to continue the Bloodline story. We knew it was there. We knew what they were doing, you know, and they were building that story arc. But the fans were too smart to it to be interested. So it's all about it's about making people clever, you know. But we forget as well as hardcore wrestling fans. I don't mean hardcore wrestling fans as in extreme. I mean fans that are fanatical about it. That we probably read more into what's going on in the shows than a lot of the casual fans that are watching the WWE, you know. So, what was it? To them, it is, you know, we're very critical. So yeah, there's that, and what was it? Basically, what was it? The connecting of long-term storylines and promos to with the sort of backstage segments and that you get, you know. That was it.
Yeah. And in the terms of obviously storylines as well, I mean, just thinking about it now is I feel like adding like a little bit of realism to it as well, like things like which people can like relate to outside. So like a prime example, just as I was thinking about it, then is the Mandy Rose and Otis storyline. You've got a guy there who's not like a confident person. You've got that jealous friend, you know what I mean, trying to like, you know, get involved and stuff like that. And I'm sure some people can actually, you know, like relate to that outside. I mean, I don't know what you think, Mr. Isaacs.
Yeah, I mean, you definitely need to make the stories relatable to segments of the population that aren't, you know, deep into wrestling, to put it bluntly. And I think that's a way to do it. You know, when you tell real life stories like with relationships and drama between the characters that extends beyond just I want to beat you in a wrestling match, like that's the best kind of story that you can tell because it's going to have the most crossover appeal. So I think that's a good example what you just gave.
Yeah, I mean the only downside I hate with that is like obviously it was COVID era and stuff like that. So, but like you said, I mean there's quite a few storylines I could think like that, but and I can't remember exactly how long it went on for, but it was one of those storylines which I got invested in because it's like I could obviously feel that way as well. I mean I don't know what you thought about the whole storyline.
Yeah,
you envisioned yourself as Otis.
Yeah.
Yes, I did. Yes, I did.
It was meant to finish at WrestleMania. That was a big payoff, and it didn't happen because of COVID. You know,
right.
So because both Otis and Mandy Rose spoke about it in an interview that basically the whole thing was meant to pay off at WrestleMania, and it was just like pulled away from them because of what happened with COVID, and basically everything just went to shit. Basically,
COVID fucked everything up.
Yeah,
in the world in general, and then in pro wrestling too, it fucked everything up.
Yeah, screw you, China.
I just want to add some, obviously, what Haney said earlier about long-term and short-term storylines. I mean, what's the thing for you? Like, how long is this when it comes to a storyline? What's too long in a storyline for you anyway, Mr. Isaacs?
No, I don't think there's a way to give a uniform answer to that. I just think it depends on the storyline and the people involved in it. You know, I mean, I think you just have to kind of like listen to the crowd and kind of adjust and roll with that. You know, like, you know, I know people said the Bloodline story was too long, but the crowd was reacting to it and it was white nuclear hot for it every single week. So how can you say it's too long? You know, I mean, if it's selling, if it's making money, then you just got to roll with it. So I don't think there's a uniform answer to whether or not it goes on too long. I think you just have to throw it out there, try it, and throw shit at the wall and see what sticks. Isn't that the proverbial term? We use that here in America. I don't know if you guys say that.
Yeah. I think that's a prime example, to be fair.
And on a side note, Alabama is 11 up on Kentucky, so fuck them.
Dear. Sorry, I just want to go back to obviously the psychology thing because I mentioned this to you, and I don't think obviously we spoke about is the mental health aspect when it comes to a wrestler. Do you know what I mean? Stuff like that. I mean, how many times now in the UK, US, I'm sure obviously around the world, are we seeing wrestlers having to step away because the body's busted up or mentally they're struggling and stuff like that? I think I'll get Mr. Isaac's opinion on this is, do you think it's more common than what we realize? Mr. Isaacs?
Oh, you were asking me. I thought you were asking for Haney's reaction. That's bad. Yeah. I mean, I think when you have something like this that is an athletic type form of entertainment, but there's no off season to it, I mean, you're just beating yourself to death mentally and physically. You're constantly traveling, you're constantly taking bumps, you got to go to the gym every day, you got to make sure your nutrition's on par, you got to scoop out your creatine and your pre-workout and make sure that's all good. All
Yeah.
that's going to weigh on you, dude. Like
got-
you only have such a capacity to handle that kind of grind. And I think it's the reason why we see a lot of wrestlers kind of just mentally and physically breaking down over periods of time. It's unfortunate. I think the only way we could get around that is to kind of look into the possibility of some kind of off season, but that's not going to happen as long as the money's still rolling in. So yeah, it's just kind of an unfortunate reality of the business that we've seen take a toll on a lot of people.
Yeah, it's not in wrestling, but there's papers in other sports and entertainment in general around mental health, and what it is that it was even just performing in front of like 20,000 people and then going home into an empty room. That is mentally exhausting. Because you don't realize you're dealing with hormones and things in your system, and that's the reason I'm talking about this, because it was a paper I read. I'll try and find it and send it to you, and it was after Chris Cornell died. It was at the Soundgarden, and they were talking about like how common it is for artists to be drug dependent, or even like quite a few of them have committed suicide, because mental health has been caused by what was it, that up and down, that emotional roller coaster that you think you're getting a high. Oh, that was brilliant, but if you're doing that every night, or what was it, once a week even, what was it, you're having a detrimental effect on your mental health. They talked about it they talked about a documentary for Gaza as well. What was it, Liam? What was it? Sorry?
The footballer.
Yes, the footballer, Paul Gascoigne. And basically, he basically loves football that much that he's so self-destructive because he can't play football. And essentially that's what his psychologist has said is, the reason he is the way he is, well, it was a nut job anyway, but the reason the way he is because he can't do what he loves,
Yeah.
So, what was it? We might not realise that as a big thing, but I think there's a lot of research, and I think a lot more is going to come out of that in the coming years about being able to having to deal with these sort of things, So I'm sure there's programs inside WWE and AEW already, because they've already lost wrestlers, or what was it, through mental health issues and things like that. The death toll in wrestling is huge. Now everybody relates it to. Everybody would say, "Oh, that wrestler was on steroids, he was on painkillers and things like that," But
I've got the stats in front of me.
Sorry.
I've got the stats in front of me. A meta-analysis of elites found that 34% of current athletes and 26% of former athletes report anxiety, depression, and stress. I think that's a little bit higher.
Yeah, that's just the people that said it. That's just the people that admitted to it. I mean, I'd say the number is probably a lot higher than that, I'm sure.
I'm saying it's close to 50 at least.
Is that you just doing a Google?
Yes.
Yeah, it's scary. I remember reading the paper on the Chris Cornell thing and some of the other musicians around it, and it's frightening, because they actually had what was it, medical professionals talking about it inside this paper, the impact it has on your brain, the chemicals that your brain releases when you have that euphoria, and then you go into a room with nothing there. What was it? They likened it to sort of like almost like waterboarding, You get
Exactly.
oh, I'm good, I'm down, I'm up, I'm down, but you don't realise it's having an effect on what.
It's kind of like your brain is being conditioned to be bipolar, right?
Yeah.
Like you've got the manic episodes of like you're doing a concert or you're like in front of thousands of screaming fans, and then it just drops off a cliff and you're all by yourself, lonely in a hotel room. You can't go out because people are going to swarm you. You're hurting, you're exhausted, your throat's sore, you got a headache, and you just feel like fucking shit. And it's just this kind of lifestyle just beats people down with extreme highs and extreme lows. I mean, it's literally, I mean, that's what bipolar disorder is. It's literally extreme highs and extreme lows. So they're kind of going through something very similar.
Uh,
And unfortunately, we see it a lot. You know, Chester Bennington, Lincoln Park. You know, we
Yeah.
saw it with him and Chris Cornell within like, I mean, what did they like 6 months apart or a year apart
Yeah.
from each other, something like that? It's
Yeah,
just crazy.
definitely.
I've just got another stat in front of me, by the way. So this is a question for you both. Mr. Isaacs, what percentage of wrestlers is said to be mental?
The real number or what the study says?
This is what it says in front of me. What do you think it is?
I'm gonna think it. I think it's probably gonna say 45%.
So you said 45% is mental, the other 5 is physical. Okay,
Yeah.
Haney?
I would say it was probably 100% because you need to be mental to do wrestling in the first place.
Okay, so
No,
according to
I
this,
would,
in front-
joking. Yeah, I would probably say around the same as Mr. Isaacs.
well, according to this in front of me, apparently people say that 90% is mental, 10%
Wow.
is physical.
Okay. Well, I mean,
That is-
I guess you can't argue with people that actually do it, but you know, there's obviously a lot of physicality to it too.
Yeah, but when
Yeah.
you look at that number, that's kind of scary.
Yeah, I mean, it's just when you've got that much focus on you know, keeping yourself confident, keeping yourself in a mentally good mood. It's
Yeah.
just it's going to be hard to do that when you're just constantly on the move, constantly in pain. So I mean, I guess I understand where that number comes from.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's a very taxing business
Yeah.
for sure.
And once you split it into gender as well, I mean, you think about it. I mean, I don't want to think, but females have probably got it a lot harder as well because they've got to keep that. I mean, their shelf life is a lot shorter as well because
Yeah,
that's the reality of the world. You know, people want the girls to look a certain way. But was it? Sorry to sound sort of like it's not what I think. It's not what I believe. It's just to be that it's the reality of the world. You know,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
they've got to be up
I
that. Sorry.
Sorry, carry on.
And then they've got to weigh up that sort of thing. What was it? I seen like a few people criticising like Alexa Bliss and that for having children and Becky, and it's like, who are you to sort of like
that's ridiculous.
you know? It's
Pathetic.
like
Yeah,
it's like you know. For them to come back and do their job, they've got to get themselves into a certain shape, and then you're going to judge them because they've had a baby, you know.
guys,
what was
listen, you can't reproduce and create a child because you got to play fight in your underwear for me on TV every week. Okay,
I
like
know.
I'm just, it's off limits. It's off the table. No family. Like you got to play fight on TV for me. All right.
Exactly.
I mean,
You know,
what a fucking stupid thing that people would like criticize them for. I mean,
You
it's
know.
just it's ridiculous.
yeah, but
It is,
that's the
it
world
is.
for you, you know.
It is, it is. So, Haney, I believe you've got one more talking point to obviously wrap the show up.
Yes, but was it and obviously, but was it sorry, my notes have just closed.
Selling.
Oh no! Annexation, selling. Yes, selling. Sell. Selling to me is something that is no longer done properly in wrestling. But I think for me to be really sort of, what was it, like engaged with a match, you know, you really need that selling in the match, you know. What was it? And I'm not just telling, like I'm talking about selling the moves. What was it? What was it? Selling your emotions, selling your facial expressions. You know, what was it? Articulate when you're sort of. What was it? Articulate when you're sort of talking and you're selling. What was it? Like what you're the story you're trying to tell. You know, if you're a bad guy, being able to sort of tap into that sort of meanness to sell that sort of character to the fans. You know, what was it? But ultimately, the most important thing in selling, as I say, is telling this. What was it? Telling a story, telling a story, and having that psychology in it to be able to sell something to what was it to the fans that they can believe in or they can get immersed in. You know, what was it, when you've got wrestlers doing like everything under the sun, what was it, in a match? It's not just ruining it for what was it for me, wrestling. It's ruining all the other matches that are on the wrestling show afterwards, because you go out and do everything. How are you going to top that? You know, like, oh, the talking point is, what was it, such and such jumped off a cage and broke his leg, you know, because he was a twat.
Because
You
he's a
know?
twat.
Yeah.
The twat.
Why'd you break your leg, sir? Because I'm a fucking twat.
Yes,
That's
exactly. No sympathy. You know, selling is about able to do manoeuvres and not actually injure yourself, not jump off a cage and break two of your legs.
I think the character base on this as well is probably a key thing. I mean, we talked about in obviously the first part is you've obviously got to create this character which fans can invest in. Do you know what I mean? Get behind. You got to like sell the fact that you're a heel. You got to. I think this is probably one of the biggest actually. You know, we talked about today. There's so much thing you got to sell, match placement and stuff like that. I mean, Mr. Isaacs, what do you think?
Well, what I think right now is it fucking sucks Alabama just beat Kentucky. But that's what I think at the moment. But getting back to the topic at hand here, yeah, I mean, you know, selling is just kind of selling in terms of pro wrestling is just kind of the mechanism by which we see them, you know, express pain, express anguish, express joy. You know, it's just kind of like emoting. You know, like in acting, in the world of acting, they would call it emoting, but in pro wrestling, they call it selling. It's just the same thing. And it's very important. You can't just do move. You gotta like, you gotta sell. You gotta react to it. You gotta, you have to have some kind of reaction because nobody just wants to see movement. It's just wasted motion, right? Like the storytelling has to have an emotive aspect to it.
Yeah, especially when you do like a triple suplex, power bomb, backflip, cadoodle, and then you kick out in one. You know, it's like you know, but you've just totally taken me out of the match by just doing that. It's ridiculous. I remember MGF, and I think it was Sammy Guevara, and he did. It was the best looking sort of pile, like tombstone pile driver type move off the top rope I've ever seen in my life, and he kicked out. You know,
when you think one of the most stupidest selling ones I remember is when Santino used to do the Cobra, and I think it was JTG who sold it like he'd been actually bit.
Oh God, I fucking hated watching Santino. I hated it so bad. Like I hated that stupid shit. It was horrible. The worst selling for me, and I know it's kind of in the storyline, was you know, hitting the Fiend Bray Wyatt, the late Bray Wyatt, with a fucking sledgehammer and concrete blocks, and they would still kick out. It's like, I get that they were, you know, it's not a horror movie, it's wrestling. Like you can't go that far.
You know, what was it? The kings of no selling are probably the Young Bucks.
Managed to go 58 minutes without mentioning him.
Yeah, 50.
I knew it would come up. I told you before we got on the air. I told you, I was like, we're going to talk shit on the Young Bucks at some point. Yeah, because that's what Haney does, and that's what we got.
They're the idiots that people put on a pedestal for it. You know, oh, I'm going to do this move and I'm going to do that move. There's no point in watching a Young Bucks match because you know when it's going to end. You know, what was it? But I just that style of wrestling just pisses me off. And what was it? People that go, well, wrestling's evolved. You know, well, no, wrestling hasn't evolved. Wrestling's devolved because if you're going to tell me that some idiot that's doing a clown act in the middle of the ring, doing flips and dips and God knows what else, you know, it makes no sense to me. Yeah, go away and enjoy it. You know, shut up and let me complain about it. You know, what was it? Honest to God, if it's not logical. It's like I said on the what was it, Facebook earlier, but like they were like for Ricochet, it's like if I'm a big bad heel in the middle of the ring, and I'm facing Ricochet, and he starts doing his thing with, as soon as he's running off the ropes to do something, I'm running. He's got no control. He's got no power in the air. You just need to catch him, you know, and then just like punch him in the head or something. You know, that's
Punch him in the head.
logically do in a fight. You know, you wouldn't just stand there and catch him like it was a baseball, for crying out loud. You know. But they all do it as well. Don't get me wrong. Like, yeet, piss off with that yeet shite. You know.
We got a shite thrown in here from
Yeah,
our Scottish friend. All right.
yeah. These super kicks are dreadful. It's like, for crying out loud. Sell the damn thing. Somebody's just kicked you in the head.
What a bunch of shite.
What a bunch of
Jeez,
shite.
man.
What a bunch of wankers.
Oh, wankers. That's another good one.
They're
Yes.
all coming out now. You know what's going off?
We got all the Britisms coming out now, and my American country ass is just sitting here like, okay, we got the wankers, we got the
Yes.
shite. Like, what are we gonna get next? So,
Yeah, this was a bad idea, Liam, because that
C word.
that's
That
when it-
usually comes at some point.
Do you know next weekend? Shall I host the second part?
Why am I that bad at it?
No, I'm just saying that all these effing languages is like kind of annoying.
I've not used the F word.
Yes, you did.
No, I didn't.
I've
You know,
used it a couple times, to be fair.
if you go
Fuck 'em.
back and look, you go back and listen, I haven't used.
Look, bro, we're not censored here, okay? If we want to say fuck,
Yeah.
we're gonna say fuck.
We
Yeah,
don't give a shit. All right.
We don't give a
Yeah.
fucking shit. How about that?
Yeah. I've
Yeah.
not used the F word, Liam. I've used a
It's
lot of other
fine,
words,
mate.
but I've not used the F word.
I know. I'm just pulling your leg, mate. Don't worry. You've done a good job.
That's all right.
Dear.
So
yeah.
I just got a wee bit upset there with the selling. So yeah, selling is a pivotal part of wrestling for me that is not sort of entertained anymore. Maybe it was no, I don't. I think any of the companies bother with it now. It's just a shame, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, like I said, that's part one. So obviously next week, Andy, we're looking at styles, match types, and the fan, which is going to be obviously a long discussion. This is the second installment, obviously, of this. So, yeah, I mean, absolute blast as always. I mean, I think we've had a decent discussion today, Mr. Isaacs.
Yeah, I agree. It's you know, we had a long hour-long discussion here about some of the finer points of storytelling, so I like it.
100%, 100%. So,
Indubitably, as Mr. Haney says.
dear. So, of course, we've always got shows booked. So, next week, we've got an interview with Rich Swift. We've got a pre show for Wrestling in Newcastle. Alexander Henry's obviously on the show on the Friday. And then, of course, back here Saturday for part 2 of this. I mean, Mr. Isaacs is probably going to be one of the busiest weeks we've ever had.
Absolutely, man. You're killing it with these interviews, bro. Like you're becoming a known figure in the British independent wrestling scene, and it's exciting to see, man. Like it's just a matter of time. I say this all the time. It's just a matter of time before you become friends with somebody that ends up hitting it big time, and then you know they originated from here on this channel, which is really cool.
Exactly. And of course, we're going to throw a little bit of a thingy. Hopefully, stay tuned. We may have, and I'm hoping we do, a former. How would we describe the guest who I mentioned last week after the show?
But if we're being coy, how do we say it without giving it away?
Should we just say former ECW superstar and just leave it at that?
Yeah, a former well-known ECW superstar. Let's put it that way.
Yep. So hopefully we're going to have him booked at some point in the next coming months and stuff. So stay tuned for that. Yeah, I mean, as always, guys, thank you obviously so much for watching. If you want to obviously follow us, head into the link tree. You can check out obviously all our socials. We're always posting stuff. The next show for 3 is being February 13th. Yep, absolutely. I cannot wait for obviously all that. And yep, anything to add?
Bumblebee tuna.
An obscure Ace Ventura When Nature Calls reference. I like it.
Bumblebee tuna. Bumblebee tuna.
I like it. I like it.
Oh dear. Thank you so much for everyone to watching. Mr. Isaacs, you know the deal by now. See us out to the outro.
Yeah, so a couple things here. Once, well, number one, we've got the TikTok ban here in America that's supposed to take effect tomorrow. I just want to say fuck all that. Like, for those of you who don't know, Liam and I met on TikTok. Like, we
Yes, we
actually
did.
linked up there through a mutual friend at the time, and that's how we started doing shows together, man. So I think it's absolutely ludicrous that there's a possibility that might go dark here in America. I know you guys will still have it over there, but we're not going to have it here. So
I don't even use it. Shite.
yeah, you quit using it a long time ago, but that's where I met you was the point that I was getting at.
Yep.
So that's number one. Number two, the playoffs are on tonight. I'm watching the Chiefs and the Texans getting ready to start. Fuck the Chiefs. I hope they lose. Sick of seeing them win.
Language.
Fuck 'em.
Fuck them. And fuck language too. No, but seriously, guys, I want to thank everybody for coming in today and checking the show out. Again, we've got a brand new channel here. We're trying to grow, and be sure to like, subscribe, share, and help us grow here. Join in the conversation, and you know, we can go off the rails. Sometimes we might not talk about wrestling. We might talk about some other shit too. But just whatever hits our brain, man. It's just going to be a good, solid conversation. So come in and check us out. We'll be back next weekend, and everybody have a great weekend.